Excuse me. Let me go ahead and get everyone checked in here. So I'll just go off the orientation on my screen. I see that we have uh, Trey Sheldon from the zoning department. Welcome, Trey.
Yeah.
We also have Tom Bittner. As I call your name, if you could just unmute, confirm if you do have a name on the screen that it's correct, or what your full name is, and then who you're representing here today, whether you're with the applicant, the owner, neighboring property owner, or someone else. So, Mr. Bittner, are you with us? I need you to unmute.
Yes, sir, I am.
Great. And could you tell me who you're representing here today?
My name is Tom Bittner, and I am the superintendent of the Walnut Hill Cemetery.
Great. All right, welcome.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I see we have, sure, I see we have someone other named Brian. Brian, if you could unmute, full name, who you're representing.
Brian Grome. I'm with McGill Smith Punchin, and I'm representing Walnut Hill Cemetery.
Great. Could you spell your last name for me?
Grome.
All right. Great. Welcome. Thanks.
Thanks.
And then we have Jose Castron. Is that right?
Correct. Good morning. Also with McGill Smith Punchin. I'm a principal and also represent helping Walnut Hill Cemetery.
Okay, great. Welcome. On the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us here today before we get started?
Nope.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get into it then. I'm going to read through our hearing script. It will basically just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll start everything. So this is the April 24th, 2024 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name again is David Sturkey. I'll be presiding over the hearing. Case before us today is case number ZH20240034. That's 3117 Victory Parkway. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the general public, they would have an opportunity to speak after the applicant has presented its case. I will hear from the zoning department and Mr. Sheldon provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut or respond to that testimony offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly. But to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay. Last thing I need to do is swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, asking any questions, making any comments, doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in prior to that testimony. So I'm going to do that now collectively with everyone that intends on testifying. So if you could raise your right hand, I need everyone to answer out loud. You solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. Thanks, everyone. All right. Who will be taking the lead here on the presentation for the application?
I will. Brian Grome.
All right. Floor is yours.
Should I share my screen?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Okay. All right. Everyone can see this here, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. Again, thank you for assisting us with this. And Trey, you've been a big part of this, and thanks for helping us out along the way. You've been a big help with this, even at the beginning, 2020, when we started this. So, starting out, Walnut Hill Cemetery dates back to 1843. It's been, served the community well for not only cemetery uses, but as like a park-like setting for the local residents. We've been working on the rezoning and conditional use process since July 2020, in which we were approved for conditional use to expand the cemetery uses on properties which Walnut Hills had acquired through the years. Unfortunately, there's no set zoning for cemetery uses, which makes the process extremely difficult to get standard cemetery uses to approve, which is why we had to rezone as SF4. And we were approved for the conditional use. It was included with in-ground burials, columbarium structures, and then all the site work included there. With the approved columbarium structures, these are like above ground structures that hold cremated remains. There are approximately 240 of these included within the design. I'll go to the site here. So there's one here and then one on the opposite side. There's a big need to hold funeral services for these cremated remains, and obviously there's a small area here for and so these are 6 foot high, 5 foot high, however that, and they hold 6 or 8 high little niches essentially. So these burials, they really need the central gathering space to provide a funeral services for these areas, and also the adjacent burials which are around this pond here, as well as for the rest of the cemetery. This really serves as a central focus point. So the structure that we're requesting holds a very important role, vital role in this new development that we were wanting for the overall cemetery master plan in general. So the structure itself has adequate landscaping surrounding it. We're providing lots of trees and shrubs, and then we also have some buffering that will buffer the adjacent neighbor here. I have the aerial just for reference. So it's this apartment complex here. These structures are all gone. This is an aerial from 2022. But essentially, Walnut Hill Cemetery will purchase properties, raise the structures that are typically dilapidated, and then provide, down the road, we'll consolidate those and turn those into future cemetery uses. So currently the structures would be located here, and then we have buffering that buffers any neighbors to the west here.
Gotcha. So Brian, is the apartment building there that's to the north, or the one in the middle that doesn't have an arrow pointing to it, are those going to remain, or has the cemetery trying to acquire those properties?
The cemetery is trying to acquire these. So Tom has been, he's basically, they're purchasing. What they want to do is purchase every property down Gilbert Avenue that's adjacent to the cemetery. So these are, Tom, I guess, can you give a little background on that, of if there's been talks?
I'm more curious right now just whether they're still existing and they still have tenants, and whether they're still under control of a separate property owner.
That apartment building there that kind of looks like an H from the aerial, that is still there. They do have tenants. The building above that going down towards Victory Parkway, yes, that one right there, that one's still there. Moving below that apartment building, all of those homes are gone. We have made all those purchases. So basically we just have that apartment building and then that little house right there next to it remaining, which, it serves, the cemetery right now at this point, obviously, no great need, but we are trying to work on the owners to be able to have those properties one day. We obviously are not in any hurry for that, but if they decide that they want to make that move, then the cemetery is certainly willing.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So, and these two up here, those are all currently gone. That's just this open lot right here on this top side.
Got it. Thanks.
So again, the structure itself, it's a prefabricated metal structure that's decorative, has seat walls, some fencing. This is a view to it, and it really is going to play a vital role. As you can see here, we have our columbarium structures. It's going to be our central gathering space for these services, and again, as for the rest of the cemetery as well. And really, this acts as a gateway into Walnut Hill Cemetery. So their entrance is over here to the west, but our main Gilbert and Victory are right here at the corners. Your main view into the cemetery, it's the first thing you see would be this space right here. And it's going to essentially beautify the area and serve the public as again, as cemetery uses that being their adjacent neighbor, as well as like a park-like setting to where they typically walk their dogs and stuff like that. So it's not just something that we're adding just because. It's something that's going to be useful for all local residents and tenants that are within the cemetery. But it really just beautifies the area and serves as that central gathering space. By allowing relief, this Walnut Hill Cemetery can continue to provide a great service to the Walnut Hills in general.
Okay, great. So the additional features are they all encapsulated in these images here? So it's the two structures there in the lake. Those are the main features that are being added.
Correct, and burial spaces surrounding that. So we have two separate permits essentially. One is for the site work, and we wanted to separate the structure itself. Trey helped me out with this, of just knowing that it wasn't originally approved on the conditional use. The other columbarium structures were, and so we separated this out as a separate permit to go through this process essentially, and that way we could get everything else approved and they could get started on site work, and then we can go back and get this structure approved.
Got it. Okay. And you said that there will be funeral services here, or in this area. I'm not familiar with what those typically look like, but are we talking large gatherings of people with any sort of outdoor entertainment or any sort of thing like that?
No, I mean, we're talking probably 10 to 15 people, I'm assuming. Essentially within this area, the priest would stand up here with a area for the cremated remains, say their piece, and they would look or walk over and place it within the columbarium. Tom, am I correct on that?
Yeah, yes, sir, you are. Absolutely.
If I can add, Mr. Turkey, this is Jose Castrejón. And that service is no different than a typical service that happens throughout the cemetery and other cemeteries that we work on in the region, where a funeral happens. There's a temporary, usually it's a temporary tent that is set up for the service, and then the temporary tent goes down, or no tent. So right. Instead of us doing, it's like to us is a double win. You have the comfort of the loved ones that are there for the funeral, for a short service to honor their loved ones, but then the rest of the time it's a beautiful piece to look at. But by no means this is a new process. It happens every day when there's a funeral. We just happen to have a nice shelter to do it in. So hopefully that clarifies.
And to give you reference, these are all existing burials that have already been here for extended periods of time. So in correlation with the adjacent property, they're equally as close, and they hold funeral services for these as well. And instead of a temporary shelter, we have just a decorative shelter that would serve for these areas down here.
Okay. All right, I don't think I have any other questions right now. Anything else anyone wanted to tell me before I move to Trey? Okay, Trey. So you wanted to add?
Sure. Hey, Brian, would you mind pulling up the site plan?
Which one? I'm sorry.
The site plan that shows the landscaping and so on?
Yes.
There you go. Thanks. Yeah, David, this was, as Brian summarized, this was originally the site work and so on, and the graves and columbaria were approved in 2020. As they did come in for initial grading work, which kept that decision valid. Within 2 years, they came in to do the initial site work, and they proceeded to do that. I think things bogged down a little bit during COVID, but basically this is a work in progress. And initially, Brian came to me with overall plan for the properties to the north as well. But then I noted that those would have to go through a zone change and so on. Those are still in an RM district. The properties immediately to the north there where they demolished those buildings. So that's kind of phase 3, if you will. They'll end up either moving ahead with the zone change for that, and then conditional use hearing to put traditional graves in those locations. Or they may, as Mr. Bittner pointed out, they may end up acquiring those 2 additional properties. If that happens during the interim, I suspect they'll come in for the entire thing, like a whole consolidate all of those, have the zone change, consolidation, and a conditional use hearing for those. As Brian pointed out, what happened here is that they came in for they removed those graves that were to the north from the scope of the project, and with the understanding that would be a later phase and would have to be handled as it was in 2020 with the zone change and consolidation and other conditional use hearing. But we also agreed, as Brian pointed out, that we would separate out the permitting so that they could continue on with the finishing touches to the work already begun with the grading and so on for what was approved in 2020. And then the additional features that they desired were essentially this area with the pavilion, shelter or pavilion, and this permanent water feature. So that's not just it's going to be as depicted in those drawings. Excuse me, it's not just a sometimes there are features like this that are for catchment or just runoff, but in this instance they're actually going to keep a decorative lake there, little pond. A couple other things to note. I put in one of my conditions there that they will be getting a certificate of compliance for the fence, which will be 4 feet. It will be compliant because it's 4 feet in height, and it's a ornamental picket fence. So they will come in for a zoning certificate of compliance for that. Brian, can you back to the site plan for a sec? As you can see, David, this is pretty well landscaped. They're going to go ahead and put trees on the properties to the north. They're going to put those. They're going to put those up there. Because that's not anything pertinent to the cemetery. They're free to obviously landscape the vacant land that they own. I did want to point out that immediately to the southwest of the circle, the drive circle, they have put a mix of deciduous and coniferous trees there. And that was something that was a recommendation of mine as a condition, and a condition which you made as a part of your decision in 2020, that vegetative screen be put there to mutually buffer sort of for those uses, those residential apartment uses. I hope that makes sense, because they don't necessarily want to. Sorry about the background noise. But anyhow, it serves as screening for those residential properties from any kind of service that might be going on here. And also, quite frankly, it cuts both ways in that it also serves to, if someone's having a solemn, family service to inter their loved one, if there was a backyard barbecue going on in an apartment complex, they aren't, it works mutually to screen both of those things. So I think that's very effective the way they did that. And as I said, this is just putting the finishing touches on and satisfying a condition of the 2020 hearing that was held regarding screening. Other than that, it's obviously a very park-like environment, which was also a requirement. It was what they stated that they would be doing in the 2020 hearing. And this is just bringing it to fruition with the added amenities of this service area, patio, decorative shelter, and the pond.
Okay, great. Thanks, Trey. Thanks for your testimony and your work on the staff report here.
Thank you.
All right. Anything from the applicant or the owners in response to Trey's comments, or anything else you want to provide?
Yeah,
One more item.
This is Tom Bittner. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for basically 4 years of getting through this. We have come to this point. I've worked here now for 37 years. Family been here since 1980 at this facility here. So I was basically, for the most part, born and raised here. This cemetery is all I know. When we came here in 1980, the property itself was in shambles. My dad before me was the superintendent. He started a process that really opened the doors to the community once again, which is what this property was designed for. It was designed for Walnut Hills and surrounding urban areas, excuse me, for families. When Dad retired, I had worked, shadowed him for many years, but I've taken us to another level now by purchasing the properties along Gilbert Avenue, because the cemetery is if you do a complete overview, the cemetery is landlocked, and we can only go so far. As Brian stated earlier, we were incorporated in 1843. So we've been here for a great number of years. We are able to say that we are one of the oldest cemeteries in Cincinnati that is still active, meaning still selling. We have great pride in what we do. We have a great relationship with the community. Everybody that comes here, basically, they're friends. They're not a number, and that's what people love about us. But I'm always striving to make improvements. Always trying to make it better. I only have, frankly, about 10 years before I retire, and I'm trying to get things done that I've seen in my mind for a great number of years. And have designs ready when I retire, so that the next person in line, he or she, all they have to do is just basically flip the switch on whichever phase they decide they want to do. But I appreciate any and all effort to help us through this. Walnut Hills is a very small community. And, we take pride. We're all friends. We're all neighbors. We all get along. And I feel that the people of Walnut Hills deserve a nice place. And as Brian said, we do have a park-like setting. And I like that feel. I keep that feel. The flow of what we're doing is not bright, shiny. It's an aged look. But that's what I like about Walnut Hills. Walnut Hills is an aged community, beautiful structures, architecture, and whatever we do in the future, we're always trying to implement that. So, I mean, having said that, I'm always striving for bigger and better, and to provide a wonderful service for a decent cost for families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we can leave it at that. I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report. As Trey mentioned, I've worked on this property before and familiar with it. I think based on all that, based on the testimony that I've heard here today, the fact that this, far predates the modern zoning code, I think it'd be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code to this application. And so, again, based on all of that, I'm going to approve the application. You're probably familiar, having come through this process before, that I have to formalize that approval in a written decision. I mentioned at the beginning that typically takes about 2 weeks. I'll do everything I can to get that out to you as soon as I can. Once I finish that decision, I put it into a PDF. I'll email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. You'll all have a copy of that really just moments after it's complete. And when Trey has that, he can we can approve the zoning on his end.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions about that process or anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Great. Well, if you guys do have any questions or want an update on the status of the written decision, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions or give you a status update.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
No problem. Good luck with the project, everyone, and hope
Thank
you all have
you.
a wonderful day. We're adjourned.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Take care.
Have a
everyone.
great summer.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.